Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope all is going good. Now, today I'm not trying to spoil the mood. I know in my previous video I was very happy to see the black British patriot woman embrace the Union Jack flag, or the Union flag, however people want to say it. Because apparently it's a Union Jack when it's on a ship and it's a Union flag, you know, when it's on land. But anyway, we must talk about those who oppose the British flag. And from what you're going to see shortly, this is a Muslim Pakistani man that's going to be talking about what the Union flag and the St. George's flag, you know, have represented historically. But for me, I look at UK, you know, from a context of 2025. And honestly speaking, I look at the UK as a place where, you know, immigrants can come over, embrace, you know, British values, contribute to the UK British economy and be a positive impact here. You know, multiculturalism is great in the UK. That's how I see it. But to a degree, when it gets to a point where people are just opposing, you know, the British, you know, British values, you know, Western values, and they're just going against it, and they're advocating for their own law, i.e. Sharia law, and they're advocating for, you know, more mass immigration, then no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the multiculturalism which I've seen for the past couple of decades, whereby people have come in and they have contributed to this British society and they've made Britain, you know, a great place. But anyway, guys, let's get straight into the video.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I hope you're well. I was born and raised in England to immigrant parents who came here in the 60s. I grew up and was schooled in the 70s and 80s in a time when the National Front and racist sentiment and anti-immigrant hate was at an all-time high. The racism we suffered was usually accompanied by these flags, the Union Jack and the flag of St. George. These became symbols of hate, racism and otherization for people of my generation. The flag of St. George in particular has additional significance for Muslims because it was the flag of the Crusaders, and so that kind of represents all the heinous crimes that the Crusaders committed against Muslims throughout history.
Very quickly, guys, not going to keep pausing here. The Muslims also committed heinous crimes against sub-Saharan Africans, Eastern Europeans, Iranians and Turks, you know, during that Saharan slave trade. So it's crazy that he just conveniently forgets that, and that happened before, you know, the British, you know, colonial times. So it's crazy how he just forgets that conveniently. But let's carry on.
The flag also represents colonialism and all that entails, and you know, those of us from particularly Indian subcontinent backgrounds, colonialism and colonial history, if you read into it, isn't as rosy as the British make out to be. Now, isn't it odd that when the economy takes the turn for the worst and the wealthy elite take more and more money out of our collective pockets, whether we're white or brown, attention always seems to divert, and the focus is always put on immigrants and foreigners and others. This is a convenient diversion tactic that right-wing rags like the Daily Express or the Daily Excrement that I like to call, and the Daily Mail or the Daily Fail, and you know, political parties like Reform, and then on their coattails Labour and the Tories, they all jump on this anti-immigrant sentiment. So this is something that we've seen from the 70s and 80s. It's almost exactly the same playbook. The economy is in dire straits. Who do we blame? Easiest targets: brown people, immigrants, and the others, and those arriving on boats. These are convenient diversions. So it diverts the attention of the hoi polloi, the general public, away from those who are actually responsible for the predicament that we are all collectively in. We don't learn from these lessons. The 70s and 80s, those of us who experienced it, we can see the same patterns over and over again with these. I didn't think my children would have had to deal with what I dealt with in the 70s and 80s, but unfortunately we are where we are with that. In some ways, what we're experiencing now is worse. Why? Because, you know, we should have learned from the 70s and 80s, right? We are in a position to know better, and yet we are easily manipulated by the media, by politicians, pushing out these divisive messages, these messages of hate and racism, to divert attention from those ultimately responsible for the mess we are in. So I had Gemini AI do this image for me, and these are kind of people that I remember in the 70s and 80s that we were chased down the street by while they hurled racial abuse at us and threatened violence. So sadly, these flags, particularly for people of my generation, they do trigger something in us, and it's not a warm fuzzy feeling. I guess you can say it's like a trauma. So these flags do trigger something inside us, and as I said, it's not warm fuzzy feelings. Unfortunately, we are where we are. I'm proud to be British. I do love this country, and the opportunity that it's given me. I try my best to be the best British person I can be, while still holding my values as a Muslim, and taking the best parts of all the culture, my Pakistani culture, my South Asian culture, and the best bits of British culture, and living my life as somebody who is a productive member of society. I always try to be kind to people, always try and help people, and I think that's the best we can do. Unfortunately, we've had conversations with friends and family about whether there is a future here in Britain for us or not. And these have been serious conversations about moving away. I have said to my kids that if they are able to, perhaps migrate to countries that might be much more friendlier to them. So get your qualifications, get your experience, and go to the Middle East, Malaysia, or some Muslim majority country where you perhaps can live without the threat of racism and this growing threat of violence as well. That's really sad. I hope it doesn't ever come to that, but these are, like I said, conversations that I've had with cousins and friends, and people are seriously considering it, and quite a few people have actually upped and left. But I don't want to make it easy on the racists. If they were going to get me out, they're going to get me out by force.
Guys, just to conclude very quickly, I'm not trying to downplay this man's lived experience or those around him that have experienced similar things. But what I'm saying is it's 2025 and I look at Britain in a different way. Things have changed. It's no longer how it was. You don't need to look at the flag and see fear. You can look at the flag and see the English national football team. You can see something else. It's what you just choose to see. I choose to see the flag as positivity. I choose to see the flag as inclusivity. I choose to see the flag as, coming over, being an immigrant, coming over to the United Kingdom and, doing well, building a business, doing things that enhance your life and can enable you to enhance the life of others. This is the Britain that I choose to see. I don't want to look at the flag and look at the historical context. Things change over time. You've even got Americans that embrace the flag. In the 60s, it was the Jim Crow era. But as time moved on, in 2008, Barack Obama was elected. And then you had Kamala Harris, and then you had, Black, America making, I believe they have a buying power of like just under $2 trillion annually. And, they're progressing. And that's what life is about. Same in the United Kingdom, you have, Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party. So I just choose to see the best in, the St. George's flag and, the Union flag. I don't look at that and, get trauma from what happened. We're talking over 50 years ago. There comes a point where, you just need to kind of, move on. Because if black people were to hold grudges, then they'd hold grudges, against, the Muslim community, because the Muslim community were very, very ruthless to the black community, through that Saharan slave trade. And on top of that, they castrated millions of sub-Saharan Africans. Crazy. Insane what they were doing. So yeah. But it's just what you choose to see in the flag, honestly. I choose to see positivity, and that's that. So yeah, anyway guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll catch you at the next video. Peace.